Hurricane Dorian.
Dorian's destruction, the monster hurricane on the move, causing catastrophic damage, killing at least 5 people. A path of total devastation as the Bahamas are still being hit hard this morning by the biggest storm ever to make landfall there.
We are in the midst of a historic tragedy.
The airport underwater, and our team right there.
Swim!
As people are saved from the flood, the U.S. Coast Guard swooping in, rescuing and evacuating victims. Now millions across the East Coast are on alert. States of emergency declared from Florida all the way to Virginia. Evacuations underway. Ginger and our team with the very latest on Dorian's track.
The death toll climbs from this horrific fire in the middle of the night. 34 passengers trapped on board.
I can't breathe.
The Good Samaritans who rescued the crew are now telling their story on GMA.
New details in that deadly Texas highway rampage. The gunman's phone call to the FBI just before the shooting. And questions now about how he got that firearm.
Panic at the airport overnight, a false alarm sending passengers at Newark fleeing onto the tarmac. The confrontation that sparked it all.
Kevin Hart's recovery. His wife now speaking out, the latest on the comedian's condition after that serious car accident over the weekend.
And Hurricane Hero, the woman opening up her home to this, how she wound up sheltering nearly 100 dogs from the worst storm in a lifetime.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
And it's good to have everyone here as we kick off a very busy Tuesday morning. We want to get right to Hurricane Dorian, inching closer to the U.S. mainland. Take a look at the satellite showing where the storm is at this hour. It is huge, and it's still pounding the Bahamas before moving north.
Hurricane conditions possible along Florida's coast as early as this afternoon. The Carolinas under even more threat. And take a look at the power this storm is packing. That is the second story of a home right there in the Bahamas. You see the waves lapping up, slamming that house.
And as that storm heads for the East Coast, states of emergency have been declared in 5 states from Florida to Virginia. At this hour, Hurricane Dorian is a Category 3 storm with 120-mile-per-hour winds. We have team coverage all across the storm zone, and Ginger starts us off from Jupiter, Florida. Good morning, Ginger.
Good morning, Michael. We've already seen a gust just south of us here to 61 miles per hour this morning. Not because the hurricane's any closer, because it hasn't moved, but because the wind field has expanded. I'll explain all of this, but it's still about 100 miles east-southeast of me, just parked over Grand Bahama. You can see on the satellite that 48 hours of torture that the Bahamas have gone through, that clear eye for nearly a full. And then it starts to close up. It starts to weaken a bit, but still battering the islands. Now, what we've felt here so far has felt like tropical storm force gusts. And we hope that this path sticks. It looks like it'll turn north later today. Still anticipated to do so. Through tomorrow, you'll feel the impacts, a tropical storm force, at worst hurricane force along the coast of Florida. But South Carolina and North Carolina could have a very close call when it comes to wind speeds and storm surge later this week. So the worst part of the storm is staying out over the ocean. With this, we could see close to 70-mile-per-hour gusts today into tomorrow through the coast of Florida. But again, close to even 77-mile-per-hour gusts up in South and North Carolina with piling of water and eventually more rainfall up there. Those could be big issues. Guys, this looks so similar to Matthew. I will explain that coming up in a bit. But a lot of people asking me, how does this happen? Well, you have that steering ridge that kind of broke down. And you say, how is it going to move? You have that trough. That's going to allow it to move off to the north and east. So we'll be watching this track as we go through the rest of the week. George.
Okay, Ginger, because that storm did move, it left so much devastation across the Bahamas. 5 people killed, at least 5 people killed. It slammed the islands for nearly 48 hours. And our Marcus Moore has been reporting from the island under treacherous conditions.
Swim! Swim!
Watch as the dangerous floodwaters sweep these 4 people away. In a race against time, our team is there, and my producer urging them to swim for their lives until they reach safety on higher ground. The group rushing to a shelter in the eye of the storm, racing to safety before the dangerous winds return.
Follow me, take your time.
Scenes like this undoubtedly playing out across the Bahamas in the wake of deadly Hurricane Dorian.
The devastation here is breathtaking. You can see that building behind me. It has collapsed. And look at the shot. On the ground, red
coming up against this condo?
That's the front porch. The water is about 6 feet.
The rising floodwaters pouring into people's homes. This video showing the water breaching a second-floor apartment, creeping up the stairs and slamming into the window. The water so high, only rooftops were visible. And in this home, the floodwaters coming up the stairs. The furniture bobbing in the water. Ezra King and his cousin have been using a bulldozer to rescue people from their homes and take them to shelters. Category 5 storm shredding home after home. The Salvation Army estimating up to 13,000 have either been damaged or destroyed. The Coast Guard sending helicopters to rescue about a dozen people. WPLG reporter Janice Fernandez describing the apocalyptic scene.
But it truly does. It looks like a bomb just went off. Mother Nature is so much more powerful than I could ever imagine.
Rescuers receiving thousands of distress calls, but the floodwaters too dangerous to traverse.
It is extremely dangerous. I've never seen anything like this before in my entire life.
The Freeport, Bahamas airport submerged. Residents returning to what's left of their community, now covered in debris for as far as the eye can see. Boats and cars littering the street, now a familiar scene.
And you can see the power of this storm. Trees have been snapped, this boat left on its top. Just absolutely incredible damage.
Officials telling residents to stay indoors, keep hammers ready in case they have to escape the attic.
And Marcus joins us now by satellite phone. Marcus, we could see just how devastating Dorian is as you were reporting from the scene. So what are the conditions like right now?
Well, George, you heard Ginger talking about how this has been 48 hours of intense and extreme weather. And as I speak to you right now, I'm feeling a very strong wind gust. It just is not letting up. And when you talk to residents, people who have sought shelter in some of the buildings here, they've been asking me, where is the storm? Is it coming back? And I have to tell them, no, it's slowly moving to the north. We're just, George, ready for this storm to move on so they can begin to try to put their lives back together. But I've got to tell you, it is absolutely catastrophic. I have never seen destruction like this on this scale on an island before.
Well, we could see that. Okay, Marcus, stay safe. Robin?
All right, George, thank you. And joining us now over the phone from Freeport, Bahamas is Hiram Lewis. He is a member of Parliament. And first of all, Mr. Lewis, how are you doing this morning, sir?
Right now, it's scary. This is Good Morning America, but I wish I could say Good Morning Bahamas, but that is really not the case. Right now, thank God for life, but there's so many unknowns right now because it's dark, the communication is down. We do not know what is going on right now, so we're praying that once it breaks, we can get out there and do a proper assessment and rescue whoever is still out there that needs to be rescued. So I'm sure we're going to have to go into recovery and rescue mode as soon as possible.
Yes, sir. I know that there were so many calls that have been going out, especially yesterday as well, and those efforts had to be largely called off because of the ongoing poor conditions. Is it any better today? Do you think that the rescue crews will be able to go out today?
Yes, the wind has abated a bit, and we are hoping that the water has subsided, it's gone down. There are reports that the water was going down a bit at around 9:30 last night. However, there was high tide in between then and now, so we still do not know. But to answer your questions, just listening outside right now, the wind is still howling, but it is much better than it was yesterday. So we're hoping that this hurricane continues to drift west, northwest, or anywhere north of us, so that once daybreak, we will be able to get the rescue teams out there and do as much as we can to help people out.
You mentioned the flooding, and your colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, posted video from inside of his home with the rising water inside and outside as well. Have you ever seen anything like this, Mr. Lewis?
Never seen anything like this in my life. Never seen anything like this. The water was rising. He and his wife and his young daughter, they're stuck inside. They went up to the dormant space, and I was giving them advice on what to do. Whatever flotation device we could find, tie it all together, families to stay together, and just God be with them and keep them safe.
Yes, sir.
But as it is right now, I could not communicate with him, so I do not know what is going on right now with him. But I can say conditions have improved weather-wise, and we're hoping that we can do as much as we can to help as many as we can, as soon as we can.
Oh, bless you, sir. I'm glad the conditions are improving, and thank you so much for your time this morning, and just know that our hearts go out to everyone that is there. Thank you, sir, so much. You please take care.
We appreciate you, Robin. We appreciate you, America. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. I mean, the storm has just been relentless.
They're going to need so much help down there.
They do.
Yeah, devastating images as well. And here in the U.S., millions are bracing for Dorian to move in. Its effects are already being felt in Florida. More than 1 million people across the Southeast have been told to evacuate. Gio Benitez is in New Smyrna Beach. And Gio, it's a virtual ghost town there.
It really is, Michael. We aren't even on the beach side. We are further inland, and just take a look. Business after business is closed here. So many people just boarding up. We have one restaurant open here, so many people are just taking no chances here. Take a look. This morning, a rush to get out. More than 2 million people ordered to evacuate.
If you're in a mandatory, you just have to get out.
Hurricane Dorian threatening almost 1,000 miles of coastline from Palm Beach, Florida, all the way up to North Carolina's Outer Banks. Despite the warnings, not all have evacuated just yet. This man venturing out to test the waters in Palm Beach and wiping out from the massive waves. Even before the storm has hit, treacherous waves causing boats to sink off the Florida coast. Those who have left abandoning homes and businesses. Business after business is just boarded up. People are listening to those warnings. It's pretty much a ghost town. Florida officials say the Category 3 storm has forced 7 hospitals and 72 nursing homes to evacuate. Several airports in Florida completely shutting down. More than 1,000 flights canceled. In parts of South Carolina, highways turning into one-way roads as residents flee. For those who have decided to ride out the storm, a flurry of last-minute preparations. Our Steve Osunsami is in Charleston.
So many families here deciding that they're going to stay put. They're getting their sandbags ready to keep the water out.
And as you know, of course, so many people come to Central Florida for the theme parks. We know Disney World will be open, closing today at 3 p.m. SeaWorld, Legoland, both of them will be closed today. And we also know that Walmart will be closing 50 stores today, possibly even more as this thing gets closer. But a lot of people just taking this very seriously, Robin.
As they should. Everybody stay safe, Gio. Thank you. We'll be tracking Hurricane Dorian all morning long, but now we're going to turn to the morning's other major story. That deadly boat fire off California's Santa Cruz Island. Rescue crews are still searching for survivors as the death toll climbs from that devastating fire. Will Carr is at the Coast Guard station in Oxnard with the very latest. Good morning, Will.
And Robin, the Coast Guard has been searching throughout the night, but the tragic reality is now setting in. We know more than 8 people have died, and we're expecting the death toll to jump dramatically throughout the course of the day. A frantic call for help from the captain of the Conception, the 75-foot diving boat with 39 people on board, fully engulfed in flames.
I can't breathe.
The mayday call coming as 34 passengers remain trapped below deck with only one exit.
Roger, are they locked inside the boat? Roger, can you get back on board and unlock the boat, unlock the doors so they can get off?
The captain, the only one left above the flames, with no way to battle the blaze from his position.
You don't have any firefighting gear at all? No fire extinguishers or anything?
5 crew members, including the captain, jumped to safety, escaping in a dinghy to a boat anchored nearby. As Bob and his wife Shirley Hansen tried to help the frightened crew, they looked over and saw the Conception in a blaze of fire, with small explosions happening every few minutes from what they believe were the dive tanks. While the surviving crew members got medical attention on shore, family members of the missing gathered to comfort each other and wait for any sign of their loved ones.
Very surreal at the moment.
This morning, more than 24 hours later, divers are searching in difficult conditions, nearly 62 feet below the surface, with officials describing the wreckage as unstable as they struggle to recover the victims.
The hope is that some of those passengers were able to jump into the water and swim to shore.
The group was on a Labor Day diving excursion. They were sleeping in these bunk beds in cramped corners when the fire erupted.
The boat had a bunk room similar to this. It's supposed to have a fire extinguisher, but it's tight quarters and difficult for a lot of people to escape during an emergency.
We're told that among the victims, 3 passengers were celebrating birthdays, including a 17-year-old who was there with the teen's parents. The Coast Guard says at this point, everyone needs to be prepared for the worst outcome. We should note that the boat passed regulations and that the owner is cooperating with the investigation. George.
Thanks, Will. We're joined now by Bob Hansen, who helped rescue the survivors. Bob, thank you for joining us this morning. I know you were out on a boat out on the water. When did you first know that something had gone terribly wrong?
About 3:30 in the morning, my wife and I woke up to somebody pounding on the side of the boat. And so I put on a pair of shorts, walked through my salon, and as I opened the door, there were 5 men in an inflatable at the back of my boat. At that time, I looked also. I could see a large boat on fire, probably about 400 yards from me.
Were they able to explain to you what had happened?
Well, they said that they had woken up to fire on board. They had actually woken the captain up, and it sounds like the captain tried to make a mayday call, but the fire was so intense, they ended up jumping off the boat, and he said they swam around to the back of the boat where they had a tender or dinghy tied up, and then motored over to our boat, which, like I say, wasn't very far away.
Did they tell you, had they made any effort to try and save the passengers?
So when they opened the galley door, which was the main exit for those people sleeping down below, they said there was so much fire in there that even the roof tiles were on fire and falling from the ceiling already inside that galley. So there was no access for them to get into the 34 guests that were below.
Such a horrific scene, but 2 of the survivors did try to go back to the boat?
Yeah, well, we hailed the Coast Guard, and we were instructed to, I asked, what I should do, and they wanted me to just stay where I was and have the two of the crew members get back in their dinghy with a flashlight and go out to see if they could find any survivors that were out, had maybe gotten off and were in the water.
Had you ever seen anything like this out on the water?
Oh, never. No, nothing like this. It was horrendous. That boat was 75 feet long, and as soon as I saw it, as soon as I opened the door, it was totally engulfed in flame, all the way from the bow to the stern. Flames could have been 30 feet high. I mean, there wasn't a spot on that boat that wasn't burning.
Bob Hansen, thanks for telling your story. Thank you for helping save those survivors.
It was a horrific thing. One of those things I'll never forget.
It happened so fast.
The way he described it. We're following a lot of other stories as well. Take a look at this video. The false alarm sparking chaos at one of the busiest airports in the country overnight.
And we'll have the latest on Kevin Hart after that terrible car wreck. His wife is speaking out now. And right now, we want to go back to Ginger in Florida.
And George, 14 hours now of stationary, meaning Dorian has not moved. I'm going to tell you when it moves and what you can expect coming up in this broadcast. But for now, we want to go ahead and get to the Tuesday trivia brought to you by Walgreens.
Fight for first dances. Fight for blast-offs. Fight for piggyback rides. Fight for 7 a.m. makeouts. Every year, Walgreens helps millions of people fight the flu. Fight to protect the ones you love. Walgreens, be a flu fighter. Get your free flu shot today at your neighborhood Walgreens.
Not a bad day for back to work and back to school. Temperatures starting out in the 60s, fairly comfortable this morning. By noon today, 80 degrees. Humidity will be up late, around 4 or 5 o'clock. Temperatures will be at about 85 to 86 degrees, so not too bad. We'll have a little bit of heat tomorrow, 92 with storms on the way between 3 and about 9 p.m. And then impacts from Dorian at the end of the work week, Thursday, Friday time period with clouds and a chance for rain, especially east of I-95. We'll watch that track dry for the upcoming weekend.
To be spread out all over the storm zone, and we'll keep you up to date on Hurricane Dorian. We'll be right back.
If you have postmenopausal osteoporosis and a high risk for fracture, now might not be the best time to ask yourself, are my bones strong? Life's full of make or break moments. That's why it's so important